Matt Williamson. Emergency George Pickens podcast. Didn't quite see this coming. Well, sort of. I can't say it's super unexpected. I know that he has been more than shopped for quite some time, and I'll just get out of the way. He was disliked inside those walls, and they are happy he's gone. Now, do I love the trade? Not really. So they get Dallas's third next year, and they swap fifth and sixth the year after, which it's something, but it's I do find it funny, and I love it, by the way. It's such an Omar thing, the late swap pick, the Deontay Johnson trade, the Kenny Pickett trade, every deal he makes, and oh, by the way, he's not afraid to trade Steelers away. He always gets a late swap in the 7th round for your 6th round, that type of thing. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. So, obviously, the Steelers are unbelievably loaded right now with next year's picks. As it stands, and comp picks can change a little, but they have their first, their second, they have every pick. They're the first, their second, their third. They'll get it looks like they're getting a comp third, and Dallas's third. It looks like they have their fourth and a comp fourth, their fifth and a comp fifth, their sixth and a comp sixth, and a seventh. They're not going to make all those picks. And yes, next year is definitely the time to be very aggressive in terms of trading up for a quarterback. But folks, you can't just give people 3/3, 2/4, 2/5 to move from 20th to 10th in the first round. So I do think there is another shoe to drop. We'll get into some of those names in a minute. But okay, Pickens. It sounds like Dallas is quietly being aggressive to try to win this thing now, and he's a really good compliment to Lamb. From what I understand, there were a lot of talks between the Cowboys and Steelers at draft time and during the draft, but the best they could kind of get out of them is a fourth-ish. This is better for next year. But you got to wait. And I do understand the comp game, that if you just had Pickens play it out for a year, 1 year from now, you would probably have gotten a third. If you didn't sign anybody, which is a little, who knows, at that point you might be signing more guys and not be as, comp set up. That's 2 years down the road. But you're losing a tremendous athlete and talent and a really, really good player who I think he's going to have a heck of a year for Dallas. Motivated, trying to get to free agency. And he might have here, but boy, there was a lot of discontent. And I can tell you he was not well liked by teammates or really anybody in the building. But man, I really like the idea on the field of him and Metcalf pairing together and getting people out of the box and a lot more too high safety and all those things. And by no means do I think Robert Woods, Austin, Roman Wilson gets you that. I mean, I think you're a little better off than you were a year ago, but it's pretty darn similar. And many of you have responded that way. Like, what did all this wide receiver stuff get us? Or, just a bunch of, I don't know what they're doing. They're just shuffling decks on the Titanic. Just tank this year. I don't see it that way at all. And we'll discuss some of that here in a moment. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA to NHL playoffs to the MLB to UFC and boxing, BetOnline has you covered for all your online wagering information. In between games, head over to BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, I know you guys have heard this before. We just did this with Ayuk and Kirk and all these dudes. They'll never be able to trade for another guy. They got strung along all last year. I think there will be another shoe to drop for sure. Now, will that shoe be as big as and imposing and as potentially awesome as George Pickens or DK Metcalf for that matter? Probably not. But I did a pretty deep dive on Wide receivers, I think you can get. And let's start small here. Now, there's two names that are free agents that are interesting, at least. Keenan Allen, who was never fast and run slow, but he has some craftiness out of the slot. Oh, by the way, he's a Cal guy like Aaron Rodgers, but he's a little younger than Rodgers. They didn't play together. It doesn't, I don't love it, but I would understand kicking the tires on Keenan Allen. Amari Cooper was rumored to be signing with the Cowboys before this deal. He's more prototypical X. Really weird year, though. Like if you study his Browns tape last year, he looked great. He was open all the time, and their quarterbacks killed him. Couldn't give him the football. Then he has some sort of injury, and that's the key here. Goes to Buffalo, gets traded, can't get open at all. And they did have a quarterback. Never fit in. I mean, it reminded me very much of the conversations we have about Ramon Wilson couldn't get on the moving train. Cooper never got on the moving train, and there was an injury involved. He's also not young, but he's a free agent. You get him for nothing. Two less inspiring free agents that to me are like wide receiver 3-4s. Not that Cooper or Allen is a wide receiver 1 anymore. Aaron Rodgers' buddy Allen Lazard. I know that's not inspiring, but he's a decent football player. He's physical. You'd like him more than you think. He's not great. Gabe Davis got released today from the Jaguars after they drafted Hunter. You could get him for league minimum. Same with Lazard. Again, these guys are closer to Van Jefferson. I think they're better than Van Jefferson, especially Lazard, than they are George Pickens or DK Metcalf. I'm just giving you options. But these guys would be cheap. They'd be in the mix. They wouldn't be the answer. Gabe and Lazard I'm talking about. Cooper might be the short-term answer. Allen might have a third down role player job for you. So the other names I just kicked around, I just went team by team in my head. Who could be on the trade block? Because I think moving next year's 5th or next year's 4th for a guy that makes money, that's been around the block, that's fallen out of favor with his team and might have a wart or two, is probably the best move here. And these are the names I came up with. Ayuk is still on the trade block, but he's injured. I don't know when he'll be back. They already paid him. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not sure any of these are going to happen. So again, don't have to get all. Don't tell me like, well, there's no way they'll get Ayuk. I'm not saying they're going to get Ayuk. I bet you could pry Myers away from the Raiders. Maybe. Christian Kirk has been a name we've talked about a ton. And I pretty much can assure you the Steelers had a deal in place for him mid-season the day before he got hurt. And the Texans traded very little to get him right before he was cut. And then they went on to draft 2 receivers very high, 2nd and 3rd round. So could you pry Kirk away for a 5th or something? I absolutely think you could. The Packers also drafted 2 wide receivers. One in the 1st round, one in the 3rd. Christian Watson is hurt. He's damaged goods. Forget about him. But I'm almost certain Rodgers played with Romeo Doubs. Okay. I would prefer Reed, but I bet they're not real excited to trade Reed. Wicks is also interesting, but I bet you could get a Packers receiver. Doubs is the name. I've never been a huge fan. If I'm really kind to him, I would say he's an okay number 2. He's an okay number 2. But he's a quality player. He's still young. The last 3 names are bigger ones. I know that they have had talks or have had interest in the past, which is probably long gone, in Tyreek Hill. Now, he has off-the-field stuff like crazy, and that doesn't help the drama that you just got out the door. You just added more drama. I can't imagine that being the case, but I think he could absolutely be on the move. Michael Pittman's a name no one else has thrown out there. He had some back stuff, which worries me. He has a decent contract. They just drafted a tight end. They've been drafting receivers like crazy. I just wonder on that one. The best name I got for you, though, is DJ Moore. DJ Moore signed a pretty decent deal a year ago. And from what I understand, Chicago was a disaster last year, as they often are. That the new coach, Ben Johnson, gets in there and didn't like a lot of DJ Moore's effort. Just kind of jogging through routes when he wasn't going to get the ball. Now, that's not who he's been in his career. And he would have a decent contract. But I think he probably cost you a fourth. If you swap Pickens into DJ Moore and you made a little in draft currency in the process, but it cost you a little bit in cap, Moore is really good after the catch. If you don't know, they drafted a tight end in the first round, which implies they're going to play a lot of 12 personnel with Komet in the first round pick in Chicago. And Luther Burden in the second round, who has a kind of redundant skill set to DJ Moore. They drafted Rome Odunze in the first round last year. So I think they're planning on Odunze and Burden being the Bears' top receivers for Caleb's career. Let them all grow together. DJ Moore's a little older. He's a little more expensive. This staff didn't inherit him. So those are names. If the Steelers, don't do anything at the receiver position and just think this is fine, I'll be very critical. And it won't be, oh, good, they're going to lose a lot of games now. I don't think Aaron Rodgers, Cam Hayward, Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt, the Rooney family are going to be fine winning 5 or 6 games, or frankly trotting out this receiver core that is too reminiscent of last year's and too reliant on one guy. But this just happened. The trade happened like an hour ago. And this is my immediate reaction. Obviously, the Steelers are worse now. The big talking points. Obviously, the Steelers are worse now. Obviously, their draft capital next year is insane. And you don't have to do something. You could even wait till the trade deadline or, nothing has to happen today in terms of adding something. But I bet they move a future pick or two sometime between now and the trade deadline. Probably for a wide receiver. I've thrown like Jalen Ramsey's name out there. You're not going to make 13 picks next year. And the big takeaway to me is I really think there will be another shoe to drop. And I also think Rodgers becomes a Steeler really soon too. I found it a little odd that he has a throwing session with DK Metcalf and not George Pickens. There might be something there. All right, that's my first immediate reaction. I don't love it. I understand it. I semi-expected it. And I think there's more to come.